Hello, team players. So, the playtest for the Animist and the Exemplar is finally out. And of course, I gotta do a teamwork build. The Animist is all about spell versatility. So we're going full into that with today's teamwork build. Let's dive in. But first, a huge thank you to my very first channel member, Underhill. Join today for some amazing perks. So, for our ancestry for today's build, we're going to go with the Snap Tongue Gripling. This will eventually allow us to use our touch range spells at a 5-foot range using our tongue. We are going to need to take a feat for that, but we'll take that at level 5. And of course, we are playing an Animist, and we're going to be picking up the Channeler Practice. For this build, we need to be able to change our spirits on the fly, so we have access to as many of those focus spells as we can. The starting stats for this build should be Strength 10, Dexterity 16, Constitution 10, Intelligence 14, Wisdom 18, and Charisma 10. And of course, at level 1, we get our first feat, Channeler Stance. So when we're in this stance and we cast a spell that heals damage, we can get extra healing based on the spell. This is only a little extra healing, but at the end of the day, one of the things we do want to do is heal the party. So this will help with it. For our ancestry feat at level 1, we're going to go with Griply Lore. Yes, we are going to get a ton of lore skills, which is definitely going to help our recall knowledge. However, we're not going to get that many other skills, and we need some. Particularly stealth, as we're going to be needing to take advantage of cover in this build. And one of the spirits we're going to be able to pick from is going to help with that. But we do want to be as versatile as possible in this build, and stealth is going to help us with it. For the second skill, you're already going to be trained in nature, so you can pick what you want. For level 2, we're going to start with Embodiment of the Balance. This allows us to add harm, but more importantly, heal to our apparition spell repertoire. This means we no longer have to prepare heal spells in our prepared spell slot. Thus, we can prepare some of the many good buff and debuff spells on the Divine list in those slots instead. Also at level 2, we'll pick up the Spirit Trickster dedication. This will give us even more versatility by allowing us to modify certain spells. For our first 2 modifications, we want to start with Barrier Shields, as that guarantees us some cover, regardless of where we're at. We'll also want to pick up Forceful Push, so if enemies do get too close to us, we can push them back. For our general feats at level 3, we'll want to pick up Toughness, Die Hard, and of course Canny Acumen, this time for our Reflex save. We'll want to pick up that Canny Acumen as quickly as possible, since we won't get expert in Reflex saves until level 11. But we'll also want to take Incredible Initiative as soon as possible, as that will stack with a feat we're going to take later on. And finally, for general feats, we will want to take Adopted Ancestry for the Elf Ancestry. We'll want to take that one before level 13, because that's when we'll start taking elf feats. Next up at level 4, we'll want to pick up Channel Protection, allowing us to give a bonus to AC and reflex saves to us and our allies. Then we'll want to pick up Agile Hand, just in case we don't have a rogue in the party and we want to disable devices at a distance. And at level 5, we're going to take Long Tongue. This is the main reason why we want to be a Snap Tongue Gripling, because now we can cast our touch spells at a range of 5 feet rather than having to be adjacent to our targets, which is very important for this build because a lot of divine debuff spells are touch spells, and we don't want to be right up next to enemies unless we have to be. For today's first teamwork report, you're gonna want to pick the Imposter in Hidden Places as one of your spirits pretty much all the time. It doesn't have to be your primary spirit, but it needs to be one of them. The main reason is because we're only going to have light armor for this build, so cover is going to be super important. Not as important as it is for a cloister cleric that can't wear armor at all, but important. So being able to cast spells like invisibility is going to help a lot. Your other 2 spirits are going to depend on what you're going to be doing that day. But as you level up, try to pick spirits that have spells that are based on the Spell Trickster feats we're going to be taking. If you don't have free archetypes, then you're not going to be as versatile as if you did. And you're going to have to rely on environmental cover rather than using barrier shield, obviously. And you're only going to need long tongue if you plan on using touch range spells. Otherwise, you're going to be better off picking something else. Maybe even picking a different ancestor. But a lot of really good debuff divine spells are touch range, which is why I decided to take that. But bottom line here, you're gonna want to use your prepared divine slots for buff and debuff spells. Mostly buff spells, because we don't lose our invisibility if we buff allies. And that's kind of important here. Okay, for level 6, we're going to be taking Medium's Awareness. That will give us a status bonus to our perception rolls for Initiative and to Seek. And this does stack with Incredible Initiative since that is a circumstance bonus, which means we stand a very good chance of going first. And we'll also be taking Obscured Terrain to slow our enemies down. At level 8 is when we'll take our second dedication, the Witch dedication. We're also going to need the Occult list for this build. And our Charisma is not going to be good, so we can't go Bard. So our best bet is to go Witch for that. And we're also going to need basic Witch spellcasting at this level. There are a couple of Spell Trickster feats that require spells that aren't on the Divine list, and our spirits don't cover either. Both, however, happen to be on the Occult list, which is why we're taking this here. For our level 9 Ancestry feat, we're going to be taking Tenacious Net. The first part of this feat really doesn't matter because we're about to take a feat that'll make that pointless. What really matters here is the second part. The part about them being flat-footed even after they escape, thus allowing the entire party to better hit them even after they escape. Next we've got Fly on Shadowed Wings, allowing us to fly for 10 minutes by dispersing one of our spirits. Next up we'll be taking Animate Net. This allows us to throw our nets 20 feet and make the escape DC equal to our spell DC as long as the spell lasts. This makes it much harder for enemies to get out of our nets. It's also why we're taking Tenacious Nets, because even if they do escape, they're still flat-footed for one round. This also lets us use our spell attack roll to hit rather than our regular attack roll. Picking a level 12 feat for this build was extremely difficult, but I ended up going with Spiritual Guidance. This allows us to give us or our allies advantage on one attack roll once every 10 minutes. This does include our spell attack rolls. And the best part is, we can use this as we know we failed. This is especially going to help classes that want to make attack rolls but aren't very good at it, such as alchemists. Next we're going to need Smoldering Explosion. We can already cast Mist, so this is really more of a prerequisite than anything. But we can cast Fireball thanks to one of our spirits, so we don't need the Arcane list to take this. So for our level 13 Ancestry feat, we're going to be taking Elf Step, allowing us to step twice for those situations when we do need to get away from a melee enemy. And then it's time for Cardinal Guardians, allowing us to better hit with our apparition spells. And Expert Witch Spellcasting for even more occult spells. Next up, we're going to need Forest Heart. This allows us to deal good damage with unarmed strikes at range, and if necessary, we can grapple people. But remember, we don't need strength for this because they do have the finesse traits, so we can use dex to hit, making this a great option for when we're not attuned to any spirits that let us do damage. Then on the free archetype side, we'll be taking Toppling Tentacles, allowing us to trip foes with Black Tentacle. For our last Ancestry feat, since we're not taking Fleet, we're going to want to take Nimble Elf. allowing us to get that 5-foot extra speed. For level 18, we're going to want to take Patron's Breath for even more occult spell slots, and Master Witch spellcasting for some higher level slots. And finally, for level 20, we're going to start with Eternal Guide, allowing us to come back to life if we ever die. And the last feat for this build is going to be Choking Smoke, allowing us to sicken foes with Fireball. Okay, for Teamwork Report number 2. If you don't have free Archetype, then you're not going to want to pick up the Spell Trickster dedication. The Witch dedication, however, is going to be important, as we do still want those occult spells. It's just instead of taking Patron's Breath at level 18, you're going to want to take basic Witch spellcasting. But if you don't have free Archetype and you're not planning on using many touch spells, then you might want to go with a different ancestry here. Probably Elf. Going Elf would allow you to take the Ancestral Longevity line of feats, giving you more versatility with not just spells, but also skills. But since we do have free Archetype and we do want to use touch spells, we're going to go Grippling. The bottom line for this build is we want as much versatility with spells as we can get, which is why I built it the way I did. Other than the Imposter and Hidden Places, what spells you pick and what spirits you pick are ultimately going to depend on your campaign and what you think you're going to run into that day. So choose your spells according to that. But if you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead and leave a like. And if you want to learn more about the Spell Trickster archetype, you can check out this video here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, teamwork is vital.